What's up, YouTube? Just wanted to make a quick video going over my personal thoughts on the Protection Warrior. Um, I've seen a lot of YouTube videos, I've read some forums, and what I'm mostly getting is people talking about how they can potentially maximize the damage output of this class. Now, that doesn't quite sit right with me because I feel like if you really wanted to do damage with a warrior, you could play arms, you could play fury. With protection, there's there are builds that I've seen, but I don't think that's the best use for it. I think protection is best suited for keeping the team alive, keeping everyone alive to the best of their ability, or even focusing on just one, healer, one flag carrier, one person of interest in your team. Um, that being said, I'll move into how this works. The entire focus of this build is off of intercept. Run at high speed towards an ally or enemy. When targeting an enemy, intercept will route for 1.5 but has a minimum range of 8 yards. When targeting ally, intercept will intercept the next melee or range attack against an ally within 10 seconds while they remain within 10 yards. Generate some rage. Um, you can enhance that in a number of ways. The first thing I did uh, when leveling my artifact was you start here. I came up to Intolerance and went clear up to Wall of Steel as fast as I could. While you target an ally with Intercept, it redirects an additional 2 attacks, and the damage you take from those attacks is reduced by 10%. So you're taking a total of 3, each one only 90% damage. That's a really big help to anybody that you're helping out on your team. Now you have to stay within range of them, but from there, you can use it at a point blank range. You can be standing right next to your focus and still cast it. That being said, Warbringer gives you a short stun, 1.5 second stun. I think you can be doing that way more often with Intercept on a 15-second recharge with 2 charges over Shockwave. Sometimes you'll get the reduced cooldown on Shockwave, even then it's not as long. Warbringer is still a 5-yard AoE stun. I personally I think that's great. Moving down to Safeguard. I think Safeguard is hands down for this build the best option. Intercepting to a friendly target also takes 20% of their damage taken to transfer over to you. Now the issue you're going to have with Intercept is it'll redirect Hunter arrows and melee attacks. It won't redirect spells, but what you can do is you can take the edge off of those spells by keeping 20% of their damage onto you. This also helps you for existing dots, bleeds, curses, anything like that. Going down Ultimatum, I chose because I don't want to make Focus Rage completely useless to me, but I feel like whenever I have the Rage, I'm dumping it into Ignore Pain or into my shield block. I'm not really finding myself with excess. I'm constantly going through it. Because of that, Ultimatum gives you some free focused rages every now and then. I think that's excellent. You can do a little bit of damage. Avatar is nice for breaking you out of roots. The damage buff is nice too, I suppose, but we're not really in this to do damage. We're in this to keep people alive, so that doesn't matter too much to us. Renewed Fury, again, that's literally just a damage increase. We don't care about that. The next talent I chose was Bounding Stride. Reduces the cooldown on Heroic Leap by 15 seconds, and Heroic Leap also increases your run speed by 70% for 3 seconds. If you find yourself flag carrying, this is going to be phenomenal. This also will have synergy with an artifact trait, Leaping Giants. Reduces the cooldown of your Heroic Leap by 6 seconds. You end up with, let me find it, 24 seconds. It's also good for closing gap if you're not quite in intercept range of whoever you're focusing. The other options here, Thunderclap has a bigger radius for the slow. It's okay, I just don't think it's as helpful. And then Warlord's Challenge, while Berserker Rage is active, you may taunt with no cooldown, and that's not going to help you in PvP. Okay, next row. I used to run Never Surrender. Ignore Pain will ignore up to 75% more based on your missing health. Ideally, you're taking the damage for people, you're going to be missing more health. Ultimately, Indomitable just helped me out a lot more. Having that extra health pool, Ignore Pain still getting the buff, I think was giving me help in more than one way. You don't really want to plan for death, is usually a good rule of thumb. Never Surrender is not going to be doing anything for you if you're doing everything right. So I'd rather have something that's always doing something for me. Booming Voice, Demoralizing Shout will give you 50 rage, or there's a damage buff, but we don't care about that right now. 50 rage is great because if you're popping your Demoralizing Shout, real quick, demoralizing all enemies within 10 yards, reducing the damage they do to you by 20% for 8 seconds. If you're popping that cooldown, that means you're taking heavy damage. That instant 50 rage for that Ignore Pain is going to be amazing. I used to do Vengeance because there's a lot of synergy between Focus Rage and Ignore Pain for lowering your rage cost, and I thought, well, lowering rage cost means more rage I have for Ignore Pain, and Ignore Pain will be buffing my other thing, but I'm not, even at a reduced cost, I don't want to be casting too many Focus Rages, especially if I can get some for free. So I think Booming Voice is the best oh crap button. Here at the bottom, I think Ignorant Management is just a little too slow. 10 rage for 1 second off of some of your big cooldowns is nice. You can choose that if you like. I personally prefer Heavy Repercussions. It does have that little damage bonus, but it extends the duration of your shield block by 1.5 seconds. And I found that, a couple of those getting 3 seconds in, it really does feel like it adds a lot more to my survivability than some of the other options in this row. Ravager, nobody stands in that crap, but increases your parry chance by 30%. It's decent. It's on a 1 minute cooldown. I tend to prefer things that are always going to protect me versus for 12 seconds every 60 seconds. So Heavy Repercussions was my personal choice. On honor talents, I think Relentless is probably pretty good for the build we're going on. You're usually standing next to one person who is of high interest, healer, fly carrier, etc. They don't really care too much about you. They're constantly stunning and CCing on your target. If they ever do throw something on you, I feel Adaptation is great for just quickly breaking it off of you and only incurring a 1 minute CD. That's my personal preference. The next one here, Soften Blows. Any non-periodic attack that deals damage less than 10% of your maximum health is reduced by 20%. I think that is an excellent option for keeping you alive a lot longer so that you can keep other people alive longer. Also, less than 10% of your maximum health has excellent synergy with Indomitable, which is increasing your maximum health by 25%, making more attacks meet the qualifiers for Soften Blows. A lot of people are probably yelling at me for not taking Oppressor, which is the damage debuff on the enemy. Intimidates the target, increasing their damage taken by 5% for 6 seconds. Each unique player, I thought it was 20, I guess it went down to 5. Each unique player that attacks increases the damage taken by an additional 5, stacking up to 5 times, so it can get up to 25%. Melee attacks refresh it, it's a 6 second cooldown. That's a nice change they made to it, but the point is, this is an excellent talent for taking down enemy flag carriers, for taking down enemy healers, etc. But that's not our role. Because if you're doing that, then you're chasing someone else down, and your healer is left without you. For this talent, or for this move, Intercept to work, you need to be within 10 yards to catch those attacks. If you're not within 10 yards, you're not redirecting anything, you're wasting potential absorption. So Soften Blows will keep you alive. Relentless is a damage bonus. Again, not what this build is for. This is a bodyguard build. That being said, bodyguard is probably my favorite ability in the game right now. Protects an ally, causing 40% of all physical damage they take to be transferred to you. 40%. When the target takes physical damage, your revenge cooldown has a 30% chance to reset. Again, that's a potential 5 focus? Or I'm sorry, 5 rage. Bodyguard is cancelled if they are further than 15 yards of you, lasting 1 minute. Lasting 1 minute on a 15-second cooldown instant cast, you can keep this up forever. So between Bodyguard on your focus at all times, Intercept constantly on them at all times, you're taking so much damage for them. It's unbelievable. The next row, Rage Machine, non-periodic attacks against you generate 5 rage. Nobody's hitting you. You're the big tank. They want to kill something. They want to hit something soft. They go for your focus target or like an arcane mage next to you. Tenderizer, I think it's just garbage. Ready for Battle. Rage gain from intercept increased by 15. So intercept is going to be the thing you're constantly spamming. That's a good amount of rage, especially if you cast them back to back if you ever needed to, which I don't recommend. I'll get into that in a little bit. The point is, I think this is excellent for this build. Next row, leave no man behind. Use intercept on an ally. Reduces damage they receive by 90% for 2 seconds. This is important because your intercept will redirect melee attacks and hunter arrows, not spells. We did have safeguard to take 20% of their spell damage, but now we can reduce their damage taken by 90% for 2 seconds. If they are just being heavily focused by the enemy team, and they've got druid bleeds, they've got hunter poisons and warlock dots and everything under the sun on them, 2 seconds of 90% less damage is effectively just a small bubble of immunity. That's enough time for them to give themselves a heal, for a healer to give them a heal, maybe enough time for the GCD on a couple things to remove some of those magics off of them. It makes a difference, especially if you can get well enough at this to where you hit it on them, 2 seconds, give them another one. That's a total of 4 seconds where they weren't taking hardly any damage. Morale Killer is also very nice. Reduces the cooldown of Demoralizing Shot by 30 seconds. And Demoralizing Shot now reduces all damage enemies deal to all targets, not just you. I think that's also a very good one. That's 1.5 minutes right now, so that brings that to a 1 minute cooldown. You'll be getting the rage from Booming Voice as well as debuffing all of them around you, which is going to help keep your primary target alive. My only issue with it is that it doesn't do anything for what's already on them. So if there's a mage or a warlock sitting out 30 yards away, they're not going to get debuffed by that. They're still going to stay on your target. This will actually interfere with what they're doing for those 2 to 4 seconds. So if you want to keep your target alive against things other than just melee, you want leave no man behind. And then there's the damage thing we don't care about. The last one, there's nothing really that'll directly keep anybody alive. Thunderstruck, Thunderclap roots people for 1 second. It's decent if you and your focus are running. Warpath, when you land with Heroic Leap, they're stunned for 3 seconds. In an ideal situation, you're right next to them, but if you're not right next to your focus, that could help. That being said, Dragon Charge, run at high speed at a distance in front of you. All enemies in your path will take a good amount of damage and be knocked up. I think, from personal experience, between this and Warpath, I prefer Dragon Charge because you already have a stun in Orebringer for 1.5 seconds when you arrive. That's not really helping as much as it could be, but knockback, this is your only knockback. So if you're not quite in range of focus, Dragon Charge to them, you'll go past them a little bit, but everyone around them will go flying. Then you can intercept back to your focus, give them all the protection they need. You can Dragon Charge into a flag that people are trying to cap. You can Dragon Charge people off of cliffs. There's just so many different ways to use this. I think it's got the best potential for this particular bodyguard build that we're doing. Going to the weapon, there's not too many bad choices here, but in leveling, you start here. I went as fast as I could to Wall of Steel. Wall of Steel is the one that lets you redirect to additional attacks, and then those attacks don't hurt you as much. From there, I worked my way up. I like Scales of Earth, and I like Dragon Scales, but working towards Dragon Scales enables me to get Reflective Plating. Spell Reflect will do an unlimited number of spells for its duration. Its duration is 5 seconds. Again, that's another reason why I prefer it to Mass Reflect. Mass Reflect is only going to do it for 3 seconds. You don't want to be dying because you're the reason your focus is alive. So 5 seconds of reflecting everything is excellent. Which brings you to Dragon Scales. Blocking an attack has a chance to increase the total damage ignore pain by 40%. And again, for those who may not be familiar, ignore pain will cost you between 20 and 60 rage, depending on how much you have. Fight through the pain, ignoring 90% of the next, for me, 700k damage you take from any source. This includes magic, based on the rage you spend. So obviously, you get all of it if you do 60 rage. Another reason I prefer Dragon Scales to Scales of Earth is this has a chance off of block, this has a chance off of critical block, so this is going to proc more often for you. It's going to give you more protection because Ignore Pain is universal damage, whereas Scales of Earth protects you for, it gives you increased armor. Well, let's just go ahead and read that. Critical blocks have a chance to cause an eruption, increasing your armor and dealing damage to all enemies. It's actually my next trade. I'm about to unlock it. I haven't quite used it yet. I'm really excited to get this 30% armor increase, but I still stand by my decision to get extra Ignore Pain because that'll help me at all times versus physical. Taking this route will enable me to go straight down into extra armor, extra stamina. Last Stand I think is going to be an excellent one. I'm not really too worried about damage dealt from Thunder or damage dealt from Revenge. I'll do those last, but everything else here is excellent. Increased armor, increased stamina. This is going to be a plus, 30% to Last Stand. Last Stand increases your current and maximum health by 30% for 15 seconds. So that's going to be a plus 60% of your current health. You can half heal essentially. Rumbling Voice increased duration and radius of Demoralizing Shout by 50%. It's pretty good for that debuff. And then Might of Ragpool. Shield Slam and Revenge will generate 50% increase rage during Demoralizing Shout. I favor this one the least because during Demoralizing Shout, we've already got Booming Voice, where it just starts with 50 rage. So rage isn't really an issue when you get there, but once you've used that 50 and you want to make more for more Ignore Pains, that's pretty decent. But I think focusing left side first, where you can take that 50 and potentially use it for plus 40% Ignore Pain, makes more sense. There's really no wrong way. I think the only things that don't add towards this build are literally just the two talents, the damage from Revenge and the damage from Thunderclap, but let's be honest, doing some damage is nice. I think it's a fantastic artifact all around. Don't think there's too much in the way of glyphs anymore. No, there's nothing. For my intercept, I've got Blazing Savior. It makes it a little more obvious when I run over to somebody, but that's not really going to make any difference for you. I've got macros. My intercept, and right above my intercept is my focus. So 8 is intercept, control 8. Doesn't matter who I'm targeting, it'll go to them. So let me see if I can find, what is this? This is Undead. So I'll mark them as my focus. Let's say I'm over here and fighting this guy. If I notice my focus is entering combat, control 8, I'll run over to them. And you'll see there's their Safeguard, there's their Intervene for 3 charges. The thing I want to warn against is you can't stack. So I'm going to wait for this to come up. If I intercept and while I'm in rage I intercept again, they won't get 6 attacks blocked. So intercept 1, intercept 2. That's still 3. This is still counting down from 6. So you're going to really want to watch to make sure you're not wasting any intercept attacks. I think if you can monitor that very well, you're good with your cooldown usage, you should be set. I've tried this out a couple times with some healers. I think the best target for this would be a paladin healer because they're going to be in melee range, so you'll be able to protect them without having to really sit out on the sidelines. They're going to run into the crap and you'll run in there with it, so you can keep doing what you need to do and not leave their range, but still be protecting them and enable them to heal the rest of the team. But go ahead and leave some comments. Let me know what you guys think of this build, if you have any ways to improve upon it. And thanks for watching.